Due to popular demand, I am presenting to all of you a list of all the strange motorcycle engines that I could find. In my last video I talked about the common engine types, so I won't be going over them again in this video. In this video I will only be talking about motorcycles made by an actual manufacturer, not backyard engine swap mechanics, so keep that in mind. Also, I would love to go into super detail about every single engine, but in the interest of making this video short and entertaining, I'm going to have to include a little bit about each engine. If you want to see more about a specific one, then I'll consider possibly making a proper video about each engine in the future. Just leave a comment to let me know what you would like to know more about. So let's start this off with the bike that I mentioned in the last video, and that would be the Suzuki RE5 from the mid-70s, featuring a rotary engine. Yes, a rotary engine, the same style of engine that you see in the Mazda RX-7. Suzuki actually stuck that type of engine into a motorcycle, known to us as the rotary Wankel engine. The main difference between a rotary engine and a standard piston engine is that instead of a piston, it uses a rotor. The RE5 engine was a 497cc and it produced 62 horsepower at 65 RPM and 55 foot-pound of torque at 3,500 RPM. The most notable cons would have to be a grinding vibration. They're not very efficient and they got very hot and they were not very reliable. We also saw the rotary engine in some other bikes such as the Norton RCW588 and the Van Veen OCR 1000. Both bikes I'm sure you've never even heard of, and that's because they were extremely limited production race bikes. Our next engine is from a time when companies were not afraid to take chances. This is the only example of this engine ever being produced into a motorcycle, and this was the 990cc V5 found in the Honda RC211V. Now the RC211V is a MotoGP bike, so it's not really a production bike, but they did make this motorcycle 5 whole years. It wasn't just some experimental bike in a workshop that was never ridden. It wasn't just a prototype, it was actually used in races. Produced from 2002 to 2006, this was a time when Honda embraced innovation. It wasn't afraid to take risks. They were not the same conservative, careful Honda that we know today. The V5 engine in this bike was placed at a 75-degree opposing cylinders, 3 on one side, 2 on the other. The RC211V was raced by the most famous racer in all of history, Valentino Rossi. Yes, this was before he ever went to Yamaha. Although his time with Honda was brief, from 02 to 03, he did race the RC211, and the RC211 did win 48 races in its 5-year run before being replaced by the V4 configurations. The RC211V produced 240 horsepower after the changes in 2003. That's an insane amount even in today's standards. Maybe not for MotoGP, but just in general. I mean, this was 15 years ago. This bike was an absolute powerhouse, making more horsepower than even the brand new leader bikes today. Heartbreakingly, Honda was forced to retire the RC211V once the MotoGP rules changed to limit the number of cc's to 800. Now let's talk about V6 motorcycles, or rather motorcycle, as there really only was ever one created, and it was known to us as the Laverda V6. Designed in the 1970s, this V6 was a 996cc 90-degree engine that was able to achieve 140 horsepower at 11,800 RPMs. Tragically, the Laverda V6 only raced in a single race, and in that race it failed to even find the finish line. Right before the midpoint of the race, the universal joint between the gearbox and driveshaft failed. However, before doing so, it did reach an impressive 175 miles per hour top speed, and this was in 1979, so back then that was a lot. Due to the complexity of the engine and the weight, over 500 pounds, Laverda dropped the V6 from production. Too bad, honestly, because it sounded amazing. Next up is, of course, the V8. V8s are something normally seen in muscle cars, big trucks, basically anything besides a motorcycle. However, some people were crazy enough to actually put a V8 into a motorcycle. In 1955, Moto Guzzi released the Auto, which was a 499cc V8 which produced 78 horsepower at 12,000 RPM and had a top speed of 170 miles per hour. This bike was way too far ahead of its time and had to be cancelled due to the lack of tire, brake, and suspension technology available at the time, which resulted in many injuries to the riders of this motorcycle. Luckily for us, the V8 doesn't live and die with the Moto Guzzi. In the 1990s, Boss Haas created their own V8 muscle bike, which is available for you to buy even today. Literally right now, you can go on their website, bosshaus.com, and order yourself a V8 muscle bike, which in my opinion is just awesome. I love that. According to their website, the 6.2-liter V8 LS445 engine that you can opt for cranks out a mind-blowing 445 horsepower. Let me repeat that, guys. 445 445 horsepower in a motorcycle, and it has 445 foot-pound of torque at 4750 RPM. Before departing from this V8 segment, I feel it necessary to mention one bike that I've been enamored with since I first saw it, and that would be the PGM V8 2-liter motorcycle. Now this is a prototype, so it really does have no place on this list, but I have to mention it. And God, I hope it becomes an actual bike, because it is the coolest bike I think I've ever seen. Making 334 horsepower, it is rumored that it will cost around 180 grand once it's done. Of course, no real release date. Before we continue talking about this awesome bike, you gotta listen to it. I do want to quickly mention that on the PGM website they list the technical specifications, and under top speed section it says how brave are you. I love companies like that. Best of luck to you, PGM. I hope you someday release that V8 bike, because it is seriously awesome. Let's talk about diesel engines. That's right, a company actually took the same type of engine that they put in a school bus and stuck it into a motorcycle. Now obviously this isn't actually a school bus engine. This is actually the same engine that Mercedes used in their smart car, but it is a diesel engine, and that is just insane. This is the EVA Track T800 CDI, a 3-cylinder turbocharged diesel engine. The bike weighed 500 pounds dry and had a top speed of just about 100 miles per hour. Despite all that, the T800 was able to achieve an impressive 80 miles per gallon. Now this is the engine that I really wanted to talk about. This is the Y2k. Powered by a jet engine. I am going to be making a full video just on this bike, whether you guys like it or not, because this is the most fascinating bike I have ever seen. The Y2k uses a Rolls-Royce 250 C18 turboshaft jet engine, making a claimed 320 horsepower at 52,000 RPM. No one knows what the top speed actually is. The fastest recorded was 227 miles per hour, but many say that it's capable of even going faster than that. What an insane motorcycle. You guys gotta subscribe, because you do not want to miss that video. Well, that's it, guys. I know there are more engines to talk about. I obviously couldn't include every single one. I really wanted to talk about the Honda NR, which uses oval pistons, and also the triple-cylinder 2-stroke engine found in the original Kawasaki H2, among a whole bunch of others, but we are strapped for time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like, and if you made it this far, then you really should consider subscribing, especially for that Y2k video. Anyway, guys, thank you again. Hope you all have a good one. Take care, and bye-bye.
Let me live my life, the one I'd better lead. All the plans of fantasies, and we looked at them 11 ways. You said, look at me, I looked away.